Okay, here we go again, and this time we can finally start getting to the end videos of wrapping up case one with debating with cult members. And again, reminder: 5 P's, principles, which is the Quran and Sunnah, the purpose, why are we talking, the priority, let's deal with what is most important first, proof, establish proof or don't establish proof, but be on the same page as the person that you're talking to, parlay and make sure it's a two-way conversation. Make sure that you're going back and forth. You listen to them, and they listen to you. The methodology is that you're always going to want to debate or have your conversation based on the Quran and Sunnah. Use your common sense next. Then you can use quotes or teachings from the Sufi sheikhs that they accept. And you can use the contradictions and the quotes from their own cult leader. Be patient, remain focused, keep your position of leverage, and be clear and direct. Make sure everything is, very clear with what you're communicating. So, getting into this individual, there's various tactics you can use to bring up, because what you're essentially doing is, when you're talking about people that are in cults, is that you have to show that their cult leader is wrong, that their cult leader has faults, that their cult leader commits sins, that their cult leader violates the Quran and Sunnah. And you each will develop your own tactic for doing this. The best bet is to not, you don't have to know or have a good grasp of all the different ways that the cult leader has violated the Quran and the Sunnah. You just have to have like a few good examples that you're very well aware of, that you have proof of, that you know the evidence from the Quran and Sunnah on how to articulate that to somebody. All you need is like two or three. Really, all you need is one. Okay. But depending on who you're giving dawah to, some people focus on different things than others. One of the things that is commonly like a red flag that people can kind of it evokes their emotions, especially like when you're talking to men and females, is bringing up the halala situation, right? Because when you actually understand what this practice is, it's very disgusting. And if a person's any type of man, right, a Muslim man, when they hear of something like this happening, they're automatically going to get disgusted, they're going to get angry, and they're going to think less of the person that's doing this. Same thing for a woman. If from a woman's perspective, and they hear about women that are being abused this way or being in these situations, it's going to invoke a certain type of emotional response inside of them. Okay, so a halalas is a good one that I like to bring up, and also it's a very easy one to defend because there's so much proof out there. Okay, of halalas happening. In fact, the proof goes all the way to the cult leader himself. Okay, because with halalas, we have Mubarak Jalani on video saying that these prearranged halalas are haram and it's like prostitution. Okay, he's saying says this out his own mouth on video. But we also know from the testimony of multiple administrators within TMOA that Mubarak Jalani has ordered a halalas, and that every halala that they have actually done has been from the direct command of Mubarak Jalani. And we have individuals that we know of that testify that they actually were engaged in halalas, that they actually did halalas themselves, and were offered by, or were told to do this by Mubarak Jalani and his administration. And it's a topic that there is no difference of opinion amongst Sunni Muslims of how this is haram. Prearranged halal is how it's haram. And in fact, there's very harsh words from Prophet Muhammad SAW and the Sahabas of people who do this. So this is why I like bringing up this example, because this one example clearly shows how Mubarak Jalani was a deviant, how he did not respect the Quran and Sunnah, or he did not know the Quran and Sunnah. And it shows very clearly that he is not this, saintly Sufi scholarly sheikh that they believe him to be. Okay, so when when an individual, like what you want to do is you want to bring up, like they'll ask, well, how did Mubarak, this is how typically it happens, it comes up. How did Mubarak Jelani violate the Quran and Sunnah? So the number one way is you could just start talking about the shirk, which we'll get into that. But they usually don't like talking about that because they want to stay away from that topic, right? You can bring up halal marriages. You can bring up forced divorces. You can bring up a number of things. I don't have the list in front of me, but the list is a laundry list of stuff you can bring up. During this conversation, I brought up halalas, right? So he said that you slander. I can think of a bunch of examples. You said, and then he said, you said the sheikh received all this money, that he was involved in white slavery, that he had women sell that, because I asked him, I was like, what is white slavery? I had no idea what he was talking about. And he explained white slavery is he had women sell themselves and he received the money from that. And then he accused us, myself and the members of R2F, of accusing Mubarak Jelani of actually taking women and selling them off to people and him getting money from that, which I've never said that. I don't recall anybody in the R2F show or any of our content ever saying that Mubarak Jelani was actually literally selling women for money, right? Allah knows best if he actually engaged that. I wouldn't put it past him, but I never accused him of that. So that led us into, okay, well, let's talk about halalas then, because I explained to him that so I went down the logical reason, and it's best to get them to make these statements instead of you making the statements, because when you actually get them to contradict themselves, it actually has a more powerful effect. So I asked him about halalas, and he said, a halala done in a halal way is halal, obviously, and a halala done in a haram way is haram, obviously. So he said, okay, well, what's the haram way? Because we know for a fact that the way that Mubarak Jelani engaged in it is actually the haram way. And then he explains what the haram way is. He says the haram way is when you marry a woman with the intention of divorcing her, right? Which is actually a very clear, concise explanation of how a halala is haram, right? When a man marries a woman with the sole intentions on divorcing her so that she can go back to her previous husband. So we asked him straight up. So when Mubarak Jelani ordered his talib to marry his ex-wife and then divorce her immediately after he had sex with her so that he could remarry his ex-wife, is that the halal way or the haram way? And then he says, well, that's the haram way. So I was like, okay, great. We just said that your sheikh committed haram. And then this is where you lay it on him. Your sheikh committed haram. Your sheikh, according to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, said that people who do this, what your sheikh did, that they're cursed. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, your sheikh who did this is cursed. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, your sheikh who did this is not amongst the Muslims. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said that people who do this, it should be treated like zina, meaning they should be stoned to death, just like someone who commits adultery. Right? And once they hear all that, and it kind of like, wait, what just happened? And it's like, this is the person that you're saying that is this great sheikh, that's Akhlabay, has all these Sufi knowledge and speaks directly to Allah and all this bull crap, but is doing stuff that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said that this person's cursed, and you're following a sheikh that's cursed. Because it's not like, oh, Mubarak Jelani did this one time, realized it was a mistake, sought forgiveness, and then moved on with his life. Because that could happen. Sheikhs can make mistakes. Sheikhs can sin. Most Muslims understand this. But this is something that Mubarak Jelani constantly ordered and is guilty of for doing throughout 40 years of his tyranny of leadership of TMOA. And we told him, your sheikh, out his own mouth, and this is where the prostitution thing comes in, your sheikh out of his own mouth said that this act is like prostitution. So when we say that the sheikh prostituted his own wife, this is according to his own words. See, this is where we go back to the methodology. We now use Mubarak Jilani, or the cult leader's words, against himself, right? And that's the proper way to do it. We don't use Mubarak Jilani as an authority on anything, because he's not an authority on anything. But we do it to show the contradictions and how he's full of crap. We want to show how the cult leader does not follow Quran and Sunnah, how they're not this pious, scholarly individual that all their followers believe them to be. And this is where he gets into, he says, if I find out it is true, I still will not leave the teachings. Because we asked him, if you find out, because I need proof, I don't know if it's true, I need proof. And we're like, well, if you find out if it's true, when we prove it to you, will you finally leave his teachings? And straight up, he's saying, no, I won't. He says, if I find out it is true, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. Right? And this is the problem, right? And this is where you see, like, this is, where, may Allah protect us from this, from ever having blocks or seals on our hearts, where, like, when we see the truth, that we're not willing to accept it, right? And then he says, he said that act of what the sheikh did is haram, but what was the intentions? And we asked him, well, what do you think the intentions are? He straight up said what his intentions were. So-and-so, Matthew Gardner, I want you to marry my wife because I divorced her 3 times. I want you to go marry her, go in this room next door, have sex with her. I'm going to wait at the door, make sure y'all don't spend too much time doing what you're doing. Have sex with her. Then right after you have sex with her, I want you to divorce her. And then I'm going to send you back to America. So I can, and then when she's done with her Edat, or who knows if she did that, but I'm going to remarry her. The intention is very clear. And then when we brought that out to him again and clarified again very directly what happened, then he downgraded. He went from it being haram and then said, well, that's not good. I'd have to look into it. All right, you go look into it, brother. Then they always bring up this thing about, like, you need witnesses according to Sharia, right? And this is a common tactic. And one, we are not an Islamic court, because he says y'all need witnesses, y'all don't have witnesses, it has to hold up an Islamic court. No, we're not a prosecuting Islamic court. No, we're not, right? And the thing about this halal thing is that, yeah, we have multiple witnesses. We have more than enough witnesses, and this would hold up in Islamic court. And you don't have to get too deep into this, because none of us are faqihs, none of us are qadis, none of us are experts in Islamic Sharia in court. But just know this. And I've taken basic classes on Sharia and, these types of things. If someone says you can't use hearsay, they actually have no understanding of the Sharia court. Okay, because a Sharia or hearsay is actually a form of evidence in Sharia court. But we don't have to get too deep into that, because this is one of the things that we have plenty of witnesses. But when they're trying to hold you to, like, 4 witnesses and this and that, again, remember the principle of proof. One established proof. So it's like, okay, wait, I should have 4 witnesses that this thing happened, right? But you're not bringing any witnesses to prove what you're saying. You didn't bring any witnesses to show that the sheikh was a scholar or a saint or all these different things. You have no proof for all the claims that you make. You didn't bring any witnesses that said that this sheikh can teleport and whatever, right? Let's be on the same page here with as far as, like, what we're using for proof, because even after we give you the proof, you already said that you're not going to change anything you're doing, right? So why would I go and reveal my sources and bring all these witnesses to come testify to you, who you are nobody? You're not an Islamic court. You're not going to be able to go punish Mubarak Jilani or all the other leaders that are responsible for doing this. You're not going to be able to do that, right? We're in a non-Muslim country. There is no Sharia court, okay? Like, for instance, I'll give a good example, right? You could bring this up. And again, sorry, excuse me for ours listening. I use extreme examples. So, for instance, if a husband or even a wife, it doesn't matter, if a spouse walks in the room and sees their spouse having intercourse with another individual, you've seen this yourself. You are one individual. you cannot go prosecute that person in a Sharia court unless that person confesses, because you are the only witness. You don't have enough witnesses. However, you personally can act upon that, right? Like, listen, I just see my wife committing adultery. I'm divorcing you. I'm acting upon that. You can still act in your own individual capacity. You can't go carry out the Sharia law. You can't just go, go stone your wife or go stone your husband and stone the guy or girl that they committed adultery with. But you can act in your own capacity, like, well, I'm not remaining to this person that I know personally committed adultery. I'm going to leave them. It's the same thing with your sheikh. You know your sheikh did something that is similar, the same, according to Rasul, as adultery. Multiple times. Multiple times. Not once, multiple times. You know this person yourself did something that labels them as being cursed and not a Muslim. You know this. So for your own personal safety, for your own protection, your own personal capacity, you choose to leave that person. And these are the examples you can give to them, right? And here's another example. If you're talking to somebody, because you have to find a way to make the story compelling to the person you're talking to. So like if a person has children, right? And this is a very good example. If you hear that someone was a pedophile, and say it's just hearsay, right? I don't care if it's hearsay. I don't care if it's not true. You aren't going to risk, you're not going to say, oh yeah, I heard Fulan or Fulana was a pedophile, that they touch kids. But you know what? I don't have 4 witnesses, right? It's only hearsay. It wouldn't hold up in Sharia court. So I'm going to let this person babysit my kids. No parent in their right mind would do that. They would protect their kids by staying away from that which is dangerous. And our deen, our religion, our relationship with Allah is actually more important than our own children. So just think about that. So we spent a lot of time on halal. I'm going to stop this video here, and then I think we're going to wrap it up pretty much with shirk on our next series.